Come on, y'all, bring it.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for having us out. I'm sure all the rest of those guys share the same sentiment. We're definitely blessed to be up here to share our stories, and each one of us is going to have a different story, of course. Feel free to take whatever you want from our stories, because our success stories aren't necessarily going to be your success stories. Everybody's got a different path, and you're going to find that out, and you're going to see that from the variations in the stories. Well, I'll start it off on the tip of the spear. You know, I got told this a little last minute, but I'm always up to come out here and speak and share a little bit of what I've learned throughout my time. First things first, I'd like to say that one of the things I want to impart on you is everybody has an idea of what the ultimate measure of a man or a woman is on this planet. And I'm here to tell you that it's not your success stories, it's not accolades, pictures, it's not any of those things. The ultimate measure of man and woman is how much it's going to take to discourage you in life. How much can you go through and continue to press forward? And then when you don't have any gas left in the tank, what do you do then? Who do you turn to? Of course, you're going to have family. You're going to have supporters. You know, if you make it to the highest level, you're going to have fans. And sometimes those fans stick with you, sometimes they don't. But, you know, if you're as religious as I am and many other people are, I mean, you're in a church, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you truly believe. But when you don't have any gas left in the tank, you turn to Jesus, you turn to God. Those are the number one examples of how you can make it through these things. So you rely on them heavily when you don't have any gas left. I gotta tell you, some of my most significant accomplishments in life have come when I was doubted the most, when my adversaries were right on my heels, and I was up against insurmountable odds. So I think God blessed me the most in those situations because I ultimately had some of the best performances, or I showed up in those moments. One thing I can also tell you is this: I never doubted myself in those moments either, even though everybody else did. I knew I had my supporters, my family, my friends, they had my back, but ultimately I knew God wasn't going to put me on a stage or put me in a situation that I couldn't handle. It wasn't until later on in life, as I got older, that I realized that a lot of my failures came when I let just a little bit of doubt creep in about myself. I mean, I prepared just as hard or even harder than a lot of the other people that I competed against, or I prepared just as hard or even harder for a lot of the events and, how should I say, roadblocks that may present themselves in life, because that's just the way life is. It's not a straight line. It's more like peaks and valleys. Your life's gonna go like this. One day you're gonna be on cloud 9, way up here. Next day, you could be underneath the ground. You don't know when that's gonna happen. So you live your life the same way every day. I'm not gonna sit here and say that you're not gonna make mistakes or you're not gonna make critical errors, because we all do, we're human. That's gonna happen. But it's just like I said, ultimate measure of a man or a woman is how much is it gonna take to discourage you. You make one mistake, are you gonna quit? No, that's not how winning is done. I tell you right now, success is a battle of attrition. And if you don't know what attrition is, for some of the younger folks in here, attrition is a steady force, whether it be external or internal, that is completely set on derailing you. It is set on impeding progress, attrition, okay? So when I say success is a battle of attrition, it is, can you outlast adversity? Can you stand toe-to-toe with it? Or are you gonna doubt yourself? Or are you gonna start to believe the lies that are presented in front of you when adversity presents itself? And that can go for anything in life. That can go for school, your job, being a father, a mother, a big brother, big sister. Oftentimes, there are not really too many playbooks for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You kind of figure it out as you go. I mean, there's one ultimate playbook, that's the Holy Bible, but if you don't always take those things into account, there's no playbook for all that stuff, so you're gonna figure it out as you go. You're gonna make those mistakes like I told you before, but the ultimate lessons in life, the hardest lessons that you're going to learn, they're gonna come from pain, and they're gonna come from loss, and they're gonna come from failure. Those are gonna be your ultimate lessons. Not everybody learns too much when they're on top of the world, when they're very successful, because they think they got it all down. I've been winning. I'm successful. Everything's going great for me. You can't tell me nothing. That's when that pride sets in. Another part of my life that I could tell you about where I know that I've learned some great deals about myself and success is not only did I not doubt myself when I had some of those great feats, I also exhibited the most humility and grace in those moments. I found that when I was prideful, I started to mess up. I'll say that again. When I was prideful, I started to mess up, because that's when you couldn't tell me nothing. I figured, hey, I'm a good guy. I don't do too many things wrong. I'm not like some of these other people. So then I started comparing myself to the next man, and that's something that you cannot do. There's only one of you. There will only ever be one of you. You were designed that way. So don't ever try to compare yourself to the next person, because now you're doing yourself a disservice. You can take bits and pieces from other people's success stories and utilize them for yourself. Change it a little bit. Make it your own. I mean, you look at sensational players like, say, a Michael Jordan. And then you look at another sensational player who came years later in Kobe Bryant. Very similar players, but Kobe Bryant knew that he wasn't Jordan. Yeah, he took some things from him. He turned it into his own game. And he became his own legend in and of itself. So never compare yourself to the next person. You can take bits and pieces, but don't ever do that, because then when you don't live up to that ideal that you've now placed upon yourself, you're creating a paradox, a paradigm where you're gonna fail. But nobody put you in that category but yourself, because you compared yourself to other people. Run your race. Not the next man's, not the next woman. Olympics are coming up here. You think any of those sprinters in the 100-yard dash are looking to the left or looking to the right, or are they looking straight ahead at the finish line? Right out of the blocks, they're looking at the finish line. They're not looking at what's to the left and what's to the right, and they're not looking at what's behind them. Another thing about success and failures and everything in between. You gotta have short-term memory. The greatest people who have ever walked the face of this planet are really good at that. You can be very successful, have everything that you ever wanted, and be up here, but you gotta leave it there in that one moment. Celebrate your success. But then you gotta know, I gotta work, because tomorrow's another day. I'm not gonna be up here anymore. I gotta work just as hard the next day, and the next day, and the next day. I was at Paul Browning's flag football event not too long ago, and I told those young guys that. I told him I had a shirt on from The Rock. I mean, The Rock is one of my favorite people on the planet, man. He's colossal, but he's just a great guy all the way around, right? One of his clothing line, you know, the Project Rock, he's got a shirt that says, "Rent's due." So I asked those kids, I was like, hey man, what does that mean? What does that mean when somebody says rent's due? They say, oh, we gotta put in work. I was like, okay. So what if I told you rent is due daily? Not just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not just on the weekend. It's due every single day. And what if I told you rent's due not just in relation to your job, not just in relation to your hobbies, not just in relation to anything that you want to consider, you know, a success thing that you can measure on a scale. It's in your relationships. It's in your relationship with God. It's in how you interact with people. Rent is due daily. You have to work for that every single day. Just because you have unconditional love from your parents, from your children, does not mean that you can mess up and everything's going to be okay. You got to own that every single day. And that's how you're going to get far. That's how you're going to withstand the battle of attrition. By putting in work every single day, by being humble. Even though you come a long way, remaining humble. I still got so much more to do. I got so many other people that I can touch. I got so many other things left unaccomplished, so I can't stop now. Because when you do, that's when pride sets in. Pride comes before the fall. So I'm saying all these things, and I don't want you to think that hard times aren't going to come, even though you do all of those things. Okay? You're never going to be put in a situation that you can't handle. God's never going to allow you to be placed in a situation that you can't come out of. Facts. You look at the story of Job. Enemy had a conversation with God. I think I can turn him. I'm going to take him and I'm going to degrade him. I'm going to take everything from him. I'm going to break him down. I'm going to have everything that is negative and nasty in the world come at him daily. And I'm going to keep doing it. And then I'm going to do it some more. And I bet you he turns away from you. Battle of attrition. Job withstood it. He had everything more than he had taken from him in the end. God would never place you in a situation that you can't come out of. But you know what Job did? He did the work every day. Rent's due daily. Even though he was going through it, the rent was due. He knew that. And he knew he had people underneath him watching him. Family. People, they've depended on him. Lead by example. So I want to impart those things on you. Me, you know, I've had my fair share of up and down too. I don't want you guys to sit there in those chairs and think that, you know, just because we have those accolades and the success and we've made it to stages that a lot of people don't get to, that we don't go through it in our lives as well. It's just like social media. Nobody's going to post a bad photo. You know, some people take like 1 million photos. Oh man, it's like 30 photos they took before they find that one that they want the rest of the world to see. That's the image that they want to portray to everybody else, but they're not going to sit there and talk about in the caption how, yeah, I took 45 photos to get this one to post up here, okay? We go through it too. And oftentimes, when you are doing something right in this world and you are progressing and you are touching people in the right way, you're going to catch some flack. You're going to catch the heat. That's when you're going to be attacked the most. You see, I did all those things and now I'm a police officer. People ask me, how do you go from playing professional sports? How do you go from doing all of those things to becoming a police officer, especially now? And I say, well, you know, I still want to help people. That hasn't changed anything at all. Somebody's got to do that. I have a master's degree. I have a master's of science in criminal justice and homeland securities. I got my Bachelor of Arts, sociology and criminal justice. I got a minor in criminology. Highly educated, and you never stop learning, okay? So I became a police officer because people needed to see that. And I feel like the people who can help the most are the ones who are most sympathetic. So the reason why I could become a police officer and hopefully continue to be successful at doing that is because I know what pain is, I know what loss is. I haven't always won, but I've tasted what success is as well. So I can relate to people. I don't compare myself to people, but I can relate. So that's what I do now. I've had several ups and downs, and I just want you to know that it's not all about that. It's not all about the success. It's about how you respond when you're not successful. And you got to hold on to that. And I know it's just words and it's easier said than done, because a lot of times when we're at our lowest is when we make our biggest mistakes. Remember that. When you're at your lowest, that's when you're going to make your biggest mistakes. When you have an attitude, you're frustrated, got a long day at work, somebody at your job is irking you, and you come home and you take it out on your kids. When you're at your lowest and when you're most upset is when you make your biggest mistakes, so you've got to be cognizant of that. I mean, that's just the way life is. That's the way it works. I don't know any other way to put it outside of don't quit. You know, and I'll leave you with this so I don't take up too much time, because I know a lot of these other guys have some phenomenal stories. They're probably going to tell you about personal events that they've had. I've had several personal events. I'll leave you with one before I get into it. 2013, this tail end of my career playing ball. I flipped my Charger 7 times. I was in Virginia, visiting my mother. And I had just put a whole lot of work into my car. My engine was a monster. The car sounded, it was like Vin Diesel's Charger. It was a monster, right? So I'm on this long road, country road. There's nobody out there. I mean, there's corn and stuff on the sides of the road. And so it had rained earlier that day. And some rain settled on a part of the road that it doesn't normally settle on. So here I am. I did all this work to my car. Hey, man, I'm in the country. Let me open it up. Opened it up, woke up in Norfolk General Hospital. Broken arm, broken ankle, torn LCL, torn PCL, traumatic brain injury, internal bleeding and bruising all over my body. I can only use my right hand. God bless me because I'm right-handed, but I can only use my right hand. I couldn't walk. I was 27 years old. I had to learn how to walk again. One of the most humble times in my life. My mother had to give me sponge baths. Very, very humbling experience, but the most humbling part about that is the first responders who arrived on scene first said I probably died in the car maybe once or twice before they got me out of it. They had to cut the car open, but the worst part about it is I barrel rolled 3 times, end over end 4 times, landed in an irrigation ditch on the side of the road. See, in the country in Virginia, they got these irrigation ditches that are really deep on the side of the road for when it floods and stuff and rains. And it was half filled with water. My car landed right side up inside that ditch. If it would have landed upside down, I'd have drowned. There was a metal pole that my car missed by about 2 feet. That if I would have rolled and hit that at the speed that I was going, it probably would have tore that car in half or made it cut me in half. 2 feet. If I was a smaller individual at the time of that car accident, the impact probably would have killed me. I was a bigger dude. Not as big as I am now, but I was bigger. And my body absorbed a lot of that damage in the car, and I did more damage to the interior of my car than that. So I say all of those things that first responders arrived, I wasn't breathing, I wasn't moving, and it was just not an issue anymore. One guy hugged back, everybody else called it. There was one guy that said, I don't know. He saw me twitch, and he saw movement, and he saw my chest move again. So he figures out a way to maneuver himself into this torn up car that looked like it went through a trash compactor. It was done. And he grabs my head and he holds it steady. So then they cut me out or they lift me up, and then I stay in the trauma ward for 2.5 weeks. Those same guys in that first responders team came and saw me every day until I woke up. And I'm still standing here today. So I'm telling you, it's not all about the successes. I could be discouraged now. But you know, God's got me here for a reason. And so I plan on making the best of it. That's one of my personal stories that I can tell you. Yeah, I didn't go on to play football anymore, but I used my degrees. I serve my community. I still go out and I speak. I just want to show you guys that, you know, even when you think it's over, it's really not over until you declare it to be, okay? So take that with you. And the last thing I want to say is I want everybody out here, this is one thing that I imparted on myself. I want you to have the strength and the courage of a lion, just like the Lion of Judah. Strength and the courage of a lion. I want you to remain humble as a child, because a child is the most humble creature on this planet, okay? I want you to make amends with anybody that you may hurt in this life, because you're not perfect. Nobody is. There was only one person walking the face of this planet that was, okay? I want you to love unconditionally. There shouldn't be conditions to the people and the way that you love in this world. And last but not least, I want you to forgive, because the more that you hold on to hurt, that turns into poison. The more you hold on to things, the more that you're not going to be able to move forward in life. So forgive. It's one of the best things that you can do. Ultimate source of humility and grace. Forgive, especially when they don't deserve it. You still got to forgive them. You don't got to like them, but you got to forgive them, okay? That's my time. I appreciate you guys having me up here.